Hi there, welcome back. Those of you that don't much care about sports, you probably won't much care for this issue. But I told you before, and I made no secret of the fact, I'm a big West Virginia fan. Having said that, uh, I was all in favor of the firing of Neil Brown, but I've since learned that it looks like now that our next coach at West Virginia University is going to be Rich Rodriguez. And I'm just going to take a few minutes and tell you what I think about Rich Rodriguez. I was completely behind him when he was at West Virginia. And if he becomes our football coach, I will get behind him again, in particular if he wins. And one thing about Rich Rodriguez, and I must say this up front, is one thing Rich Rodriguez's teams had that Neil Brown's didn't. The end of the third quarter, when we were changing sides of the field, Rich Rodriguez's team sprinted to the other side of the field. They still had gas left in the tanks in their fourth quarter. Rich's teams were well prepared. They were ready to go four quarters, and I will say that. And that's one thing that this team didn't have. They were dead at the end of games, losing games in the fourth quarter. Rich Rodriguez's teams were still strong in the fourth, and I will say that. And it's one thing I would be happy to see come back to Morgantown. Another thing Rich Rodriguez was very good at was taking about 3-star players and developing them to 4 and 5 stars. We did a great job at that when Rodriguez was there at West Virginia. He took players that other schools passed on and coached them up into players. And so I'm going to say that don't misunderstand me. I didn't want Rodriguez back because of the way he left. But I'm going to say some things here I want to say. I understand. What I'm still sore about is this thing that probably every West Virginia fan is sore about, the 13-9 game at Pitt. I was at that game. I'll say this. Rich Rodriguez, I heard before the week before the game from somebody that was in the facilities building, they said the coach, Rodriguez, and a lot of the coaches weren't hardly there that week. Rich Rodriguez spent more time preparing for Michigan than he did for Pitt, and it cost us the biggest game in West Virginia history, because had we won that game, we'd have been playing in the national championship. And I'll just say it, we'd have beat Ohio State that year just as bad as LSU beat them. And I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. And it cost, I've been a career West Virginia fan since about 68, and it cost West Virginia their moment in glory right there. And I'm still sore about it. I'm awful sore about it. Let me talk about that game just a little bit. Dave Wanstead had pretty well figured out Rich Rodriguez's offense. And his teams, those Pitt teams that he had, were strong on the edges. And so Rich would keep trying to throw those bubble screens, and Wanstead's players just kept blowing them up. But one thing Pitt wasn't, they were not strong in the middle. And in that game, we kept trying to throw these bubble screens and just got killed on it. We ran Steve Slayton in that game 9 times. He had 11 yards. We ran him 9 times. If we had ran Steve Slayton 20 times in that game, I guarantee you ran Steve Slayton 20 times, he breaks one of those for a touchdown. We ran Noel Devine 7 times in that game. If Noel Devine runs 20 times in a football game, he breaks at least one of them and may break one for a touchdown. Sometimes they caught him from behind because he didn't chew up as much real estate, being short like he was. But you run him 20 times, he was going to break one loose. We ran Owen Schmidt in that game twice, only twice. He had more yards carrying than Slayton had. He had more yards carrying than Noel Devine had. And if we had run Owen Schmidt in that game 20 times and kept pounding him up the middle, that Pittsburgh defense would have been so weak that we could have pulled anything. We could have thrown a bubble screen that would go all the way. But we never ran Owen Schmidt. They couldn't stop us up the middle. And Owen Schmidt would have broke down their defense, and we'd have won that game going away because they'd have been so doggone tired, we'd have broke several big ones on them. And I'm still sore about that. And I'll be sore about that till day. It was the only football game I ever came back from. I think I got home at 2:30 in the morning. And I sat there on the couch. I couldn't even sleep. I was so upset about it. And it wasn't, I was just mad. I just couldn't believe what happened. I couldn't believe that he didn't have us prepared for that game. And his game plan was like he wanted to lose. And I'm still sore about it because this one, he didn't care about that game. And he cost us our greatest opportunity. And I'm still sore about it. I was sore about Bobby Bowden leaving in 1975 and was still mad about it almost 30 years later. I can get over it. And Rich Rodriguez comes back. If he can win and he's serious about winning, I'll be completely behind him. But I got to tell you, he wouldn't have been my first choice. He wouldn't have been he wouldn't have been on my list just because of the way he left and the mess he left when he did. And that loss to Pitt, I fear that Rodriguez hasn't learned anything from them. I think back then that Rich Rodriguez had the attitude, he had a game plan, and he was going to win with it, even if it took 5 quarters. That was his attitude. I never really got the impression that he really ever changed his schemes at halftime. Whatever he was doing the first half, he did right back in the second half and came out. And it worked a lot of times. But when it didn't work and Dave Wanstead figured him out, I sometimes think Bill Stewart had more success against Wanstead than Rodriguez did because he somehow understood he wasn't as predictable. And those are just fears I have about Rodriguez. But I thought I'd come on here and just say that I'm not a huge Rich Rodriguez fan coming back, but I'm a huge West Virginia fan. And if he can come back and if he can win, I'll welcome the prodigal home and support him all the way. I would have been a no on Rich Rodriguez, and I'd actually been a no on Jimbo Fisher as well for other reasons. And anyway, I just wanted to say my point about it and have my say about that game because I think so much was done in that game that cost us a chance at a national championship that I think we would have won. And I'm still a little sore about it. And I hold a grudge about sports for a long time. And I just wanted to say that. Well, anyway, you're not a West Virginia fan. This probably wasn't for you, but I'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.